Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm very excited because we are going to be revealing our entire wedding budget, and I know a few of you guys have been waiting for this for a while, so it is finally here. Now I did do a previous video with my husband where we really talked about the key learnings that we actually learnt from our wedding in terms of things like saving money and budgeting for it, so definitely check those videos out if you haven't already. I will link them up here for you and in the description below, but without further ado I just want to get started and let you guys know what the numbers are like. So this is basically the budget template that we actually used for our wedding budget, and I would definitely highly recommend, if you are saving up for something like a wedding or maybe a big project, that you actually have a budget template for it, because you do really want to understand how much things are going to be costing. Are you sticking to your budget or are you likely to overspend? Now in terms of the budget template, if you don't currently have one, I am actually giving this one away for free. Yes, free. So definitely check my link in the description below where you can access your own budget template. But yeah, let's just take the time to go through mine and see what our numbers were saying. So as you can see, the spreadsheet is really based on 4 different tabs. So the first tab really looks at the total spend for everything, and then the other tabs just basically breaks it down even more. So in terms of the sections that we were looking at, we first looked at our church, venue and catering. So if you didn't know, we did get married in a church, and we obviously had to pay for a booking fee, and we also had to pay for our venue as well, and we also had to pay for things like catering and stuff when it came to the reception. Now I would definitely say these were probably our largest costs. So you can see here that in terms of our venue, it was about $3,575. Now that was also a dry hire, so that essentially means we had to bring our own decor into that. We also had to bring our own catering and things like that. So we literally just rented out the venue and then that was it, and then we did pay for catering and stuff separately. Now the reason being for that is, for us, we actually found it cheaper based on the venue that we chose. There are obviously some venues where you can basically pay for a whole package. Sometimes it can be cheaper, sometimes it can be a bit more expensive. The only thing I would say is just really evaluate the costs and things like that. But in terms of the venue that we use, they don't actually do any catering services or anything like that. They literally just do the dry hire. So that's why we chose that. And you can see that in terms of our church, so you do have to pay for things like a booking fee for that, and even if you're doing a registry, very similar as well. So that came up to $925. And then in terms of the catering, because again we were paying for catering separately, ours actually came to $3,325, so $3,325, and that was for us to be able to actually include a canapé hour. So we did include a canapé hour at the beginning, and then we also served a buffet meal as well for dinner, and we also had things like snacks on the table. So that was essentially enough for about 200 people. That's how much we budgeted for. So that basically came to $3,325. And then obviously we also had to pay for staff as well. So we paid for staff that obviously would actually help serve the food in terms of the buffet table, but we also paid for a wedding coordinator in that, and we also had to pay for things like bar staff and also staff that would help set up and then also clear down at the end. So you can see in terms of staff costs, that came to about £900 in total. So obviously the big total in terms of the church, venue and catering and staff costs came to $8,725 in total. But yeah, I'd probably say those costs were actually the biggest chunk in terms of our budget, but essentially that was the total spend for that area. And again, if you're interested and you're maybe not from the UK, then it's about, I would say, 12,000 US dollars. So essentially that is how much we spend on things like church, venue, catering and staff. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel, plus it's free. Okay, so the next thing was our bridal party. So that included myself as the bride, my husband as the groom, and also our bridesmaids and groomsmen, and you will see why they've actually been included in this cost as well. So I do actually want to do a little bit of a deep dive, so I am going to go into the tab where it does say bridal party. So in terms of the bridal party, let's talk about myself first. And obviously if you did watch the previous video where we talked about some of the mistakes that I think we made in terms of our wedding, then you will know that one mistake was getting my first dress. So I'm not actually going to just talk about that in this video, so definitely make sure you do watch that video. I will link it up here for you and in the description below. But essentially I did make a mistake and I decided that I was going to get another dress instead. So in total, when it came to my wedding dress, I actually originally budgeted £500 for the wedding dress and then another £100 for alterations. Now you might be thinking that's either really expensive or that is really cheap. There's no way I would have got a dress for that amount of money, but essentially I will tell you that wedding dresses are not cheap at all. They are very expensive. So you will tend to find, actually, if you do try and find wedding dresses, you're probably looking at about a grand, so about 1,000 upwards. Even when it comes to US dollars, maybe 1,500, even up to 2,000, I would say, or even more than that. So for me, when I did say that my budget was £500, which is around 700 US dollars, a lot of people did not think I would be able to find a dress like that. And even when we went to the bridal stores the second time, my mum was literally like, I don't think you're going to be able to find a dress for that much. Really, you need to start thinking about reevaluating your budget. But I said, no, I am going to find a dress for 500 plus 100 for alterations. So in terms of the total amount that I actually spent on my wedding dress actually came to £600. Yes, I found a dress for £600, and get this, it included alterations. So I said in my budget I was going to spend 500 plus 100 on alterations, and I managed to find a dress for 600 in total, including alterations. So if there's anyone telling you that you can't spend 600 on a dress, I am telling you, you can. You just have to be creative. So again, what I was doing is I was going to each and every bridal store. I think we probably went to 4 or 5 bridal stores, and again, as soon as I went there, I asked for the cost. I asked how much are these dresses, and one store that we went to, they were actually having a sale. So it was lucky the time that we actually went just after lockdown as well. And the reason why I decided to do that is because I had a feeling that maybe stores were going to start actually having sales, trying to get people to entice them to come back to the store and maybe start buying dresses as well. So I made sure that as soon as lockdown ended that I went to the stores. Initially, I did want to go around November time, so whilst it's winter and whilst it's quiet, that's really when I wanted to go and look for dresses, because I thought that maybe they would have like sample sales or just different sales or stock that they're trying to get rid of. But obviously we actually had lockdown in the UK during that time, so that got moved to April. But essentially I went straight after lockdown eased up, and yeah, managed to find a dress for 600. Again, that's around 800 US dollars, including alterations. Plus they also actually discounted the veil for us, and actually it was a customized veil, so we ended up getting that for half price because we actually bought the dress on that day. So in terms of the veil, I actually ended up getting that for £35 instead of around £70, I think, and that's probably around 40 US dollars, which was definitely different to the bridal store I had first gone to, where the veil was like a whole £100 or something ridiculous like that. So if I didn't actually buy the veil there, I probably would have looked online or eBay or something, or even just got something secondhand. I'm not even gonna lie to you, because I didn't really want to spend too much on a veil because you don't wear it for that long. But for me, 35 was not bad at all, so essentially I did buy it there. Then next up was personal care. So obviously I did have to do a few things before the wedding day, so that came to around £60, and that is something that's pretty standard for me. I wasn't really looking to cut costs there as well. I think the only trick I would maybe say is don't mention that it's your wedding when you're trying to get things like a wax or anything done, but when you are there, then you can mention that you're having a wedding, just so they can, you know, take their time and just make sure that everything's all okay. But they won't try and bump up the price because you should already know the price. So that's a little hack that maybe you can use. And then next up were shoes. So I spent around 35 on shoes, and that was basically what I budgeted. So I had looked at different places online just to see if there were any particular sales. I did also go to stores as well, and so the shoes that I had, I just really wanted comfortable shoes that I didn't want to spend too much money on, so 35 was basically it. And then things like makeup and lashes. So again, as mentioned in our video where we were talking about our key learnings in terms of our wedding, I did talk about actually not even hiring a makeup artist, but buying the makeup myself and then getting my bridesmaid to actually do the makeup for me. So in terms of that plus the lashes, that came to about 85 in total. And I think what's good about that is, yes, obviously I spent 85 on the makeup, but what it essentially means is that I can then use that makeup going forward. I can literally use this for months on end, so I'm very happy about that. And actually I originally budgeted I think about 100 for that, so actually to only spend 85 was not bad at all. And then next up was manicure and pedicure. Again, these were pretty much standard prices. So for me, I did try and look for places, but when it comes to things like manicures and pedicures, for me it's just something that I don't usually do all the time anyway, so I would rather just go based on someone that recommends it. So I just basically went to a place that my mum always goes to, so that came to £58. And then lastly, we also had traditional clothing, so that cost around £40. And so essentially what that meant is during the reception, what would happen is after I actually wear my bridal dress, we would actually change into our traditional clothing and we would wear that for the night. So we actually paid around 40 for that, and actually we got that sewn and done in Nigeria, so again it was much cheaper, which was good because then it essentially saved us quite a lot of money, which was amazing. So in total you can see that when it came to the cost for things for myself, that actually came to £913, which again is around 1,200 US dollars. So again, actually, when you think about it, for one day, it's a little bit pricey in terms of what you're paying for. But again, the majority of that would have been the wedding dress. So yeah, almost $1,000 for that. And then next up was the groom. So you could see clearly he did not spend as much money as me, but in terms of his suit, his actually came to £299. So again, I think maybe that's around $500 US, which I actually think was quite a good deal. He had shopped around a lot to find a good deal, but also a good quality suit as well, because you don't want to just buy the cheapest thing, you want to buy something that's value for money. So in terms of his suit, it was actually really nice, and I think it was actually quite a good deal in terms of how much he paid for that. He also got his haircut done as well. Usually I think he pays around £17, but for this month he actually got £10 off because he did refer someone to actually get their hair done in the salon, and they had like a refer a friend scheme thing. So this time he actually only ended up paying £7 for that, which was great. And then again, in terms of traditional clothing, it was another 40 because both of us would change, as well as the groomsmen and the bridesmaids, which you will see. But in terms of the total for the groom himself, his came up to about £346, which is around $478 US. So again, not as much as me, but we did also still pay a decent amount for him. And then moving over to the bridesmaids and groomsmen, so they actually ended up paying for their own outfits. So the groomsmen paid for their own suits and the bridesmaids ended up paying for their own dresses. However, what we did pay for is their traditional clothing. So because we had 6 bridesmaids and 6 groomsmen, we allocated about £120 each to their traditional clothes. So again, we then took that to Nigeria. Well, my mum took them to Nigeria, she got it sewn there and paid for the materials, and in total that is basically how much we spent. So again, a good cost saving for us was actually taking it to another country, particularly because materials were a lot cheaper, and of course the labor cost was cheaper as well. So the overall total actually came to just under £1,500 for the bride, the groom, the bridesmaids and the groomsmen, and again that's probably around $2,000 US. And then the other section I want to move over to is something that we just called other. So this was basically everything else. So we did pay for quite a few things, particularly when it comes to the wedding. The one thing that we didn't have to pay for, which was absolutely amazing, was our table plan and also our wedding program as well for the church. The reason why we didn't have to pay for that is because we actually got my husband's brother to actually make the table plan for us and the wedding program, because he's actually a graphic designer and an illustrator. So that actually saved us quite a lot of money. So again, one tip I would say is if you have family members that have these kind of skills, that's another way that they can gift you. So I'll definitely leave his Instagram in the description below if you do want to check it out. But in terms of everything else, in terms of our gifts, we did end up actually buying gifts for our bridal party. So we did actually buy gifts for our bridesmaids and groomsmen and family members and things like that. So in total, we spent about £111 on that. We also had taxis as well. So we actually allocated taxis for our bridal party just to go from things like the hotel to the church and then back to the reception. So I think originally we budgeted about £80, so it then essentially came to about £82 in total. And then next up, we actually got a rented car. So that was the car that picked me up from the hotel and then also picked myself and Yinka up from the church to take us to the reception, and that actually came to £240. And again, we looked at a lot of different sites, we shopped around when it came to our rented car, but we were able to find something within our price range, which was good. And then also when it came to photography and videography, we spent about £1,200 on that, and that actually included engagement photos and then also the wedding itself. So again, what we did is we essentially looked online, we looked at different portfolios. I would say when it comes to photography and videography, there are packages that can be really expensive. I mean, there was one person we spoke to and theirs was like £5,000, and for us that was just way out of our price range. So definitely make sure you do shop around when it comes to things like that, but also you obviously want to have good quality as well. So if they do have a portfolio of things like wedding photos and obviously of different ethnicities, because that was something that was again very important to us, because I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to photography, I don't really want to be looking like a different shade, but things like that we really researched, and we were really happy with the couple that we chose. So I'll definitely make sure I link that in the description below if you are looking for someone. And then next up was DJ and entertainment. So in terms of the DJ, we actually spent around £400 for that, and we did also have an MC, but it was actually a friend of my mum's, so we didn't actually have to pay for that as well. So again, if your family has connections, definitely make sure that you actually utilize them. Again, with things like wedding favors, we didn't have to pay for because my mum decided to be a bit extra and pay for other things, which was very nice of her, and obviously it meant that she got it for quite cheap as well because she again did them in Nigeria. But essentially we spent around £400 on our DJ, which again, depending on what DJs you're looking for, they can be upwards of 1,000 to 2,000. So really make sure you do shop around, and obviously if they've done previous weddings as well, it's good to look at that just to see what the vibe is like and if you think that they will actually be a good fit. So again, just make sure you shop around with things like that. And then next up were flowers. So in total that came to 132. We had originally, I think, budgeted around 200 for our flowers, but again, because we were able to save costs on things like going to AliExpress, I think for the groomsmen flowers we bought things from AliExpress for them, and also for the groom himself the flower that we got was from AliExpress, so that was pretty cheap. And as I mentioned before, in terms of our bridesmaids flowers, so their bouquets, we actually made that in Nigeria, and so that was really cheap, like literally £1 per bouquet. And then in terms of my own flowers, again, we were able to actually get that from a supermarket. I think I mentioned in my previous video that I got it from John Lewis. It wasn't actually John Lewis, my sister had to correct me on that. It was actually Waitrose. So again, what we did is actually bought the flowers from Waitrose, and then my sister bought like the ribbon and stuff, and I think that came under £5. She got that from Hobbycraft, put it all together and made it a bouquet, so that was really nice. And then next up were the wedding rings. So again, we shopped around for that, but we spent 311 on our wedding rings. And then next up, we also bought 2 nights for our hotel. So for me, when it came to the night before the wedding, I actually stayed at a hotel with some of my bridesmaids, and my husband actually stayed here in our flat. So that's kind of how we did it. And so 2 nights came to around 64. Again, we managed to find some deals, and we booked early as well. So by the time we booked, we could get like wedding nights, I think they were like £30 a night, so that was great. And then in terms of drinks, we only spent 577. Again, the reason why we didn't have to spend that much is because we had some family members gifting us with some drinks as well, and also my cousin hooked us up with a wholesalers so that we could just buy in bulk, and that made it cheaper overall, so that was amazing. Then of course with the wedding cake, we didn't actually have to pay for anything because my uncle and his family actually gifted us with the wedding cake, so that essentially probably saved us around 400, I would say. We didn't really want to spend 400 anyway. I'm pretty sure we would have just gone for a Costco cake or something, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie, because we didn't want to spend that much on the cake, but essentially we didn't have to pay for anything anyway, so that was amazing. And in terms of decor, so that came to 791. So essentially what we did do is we actually went to a decor company who actually worked with the venue quite closely, and they essentially did like the backdrop, and they also did like the bride and groom chairs and things like that. But what we didn't pay for was actually their centerpieces, because we found that their centerpieces were a lot more expensive, and so we decided to actually make our own centerpieces. And again, that's something that I've mentioned I think in our video where we talked about saving up for a wedding, so definitely make sure you check that out. I will link that in the description below for you. But essentially we made our own centerpieces, and so that meant I think we spent like less than £10 on the centerpiece. And then Appy Couple was just the app we used as our wedding invitation, so rather than actually send out physical invitations, all we did is we actually did it on the app, and we included the address and things to meet, and also like how we met as well, and just nice things like that, and how people can also gift you as well. So that only cost us £36, so that was absolutely amazing and quite affordable. Again, I'll make sure that's linked in the description below. And then lastly was our honeymoon. So that was something that we definitely wanted to do, particularly because I've not gone on holiday for quite a long time. So our honeymoon actually came to 2227 in total, and that is basically for I think 7 days all inclusive. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But in total, you can see in terms of our other category, we actually ended up spending £6,171, which is around $8,500 US. So you can see how things tend to add up. The only thing that I haven't mentioned before as well is actually when it came to things like the venue, one good tip was that we actually ended up getting married on a weekday. So we got married on a Friday. The reason why we did that is because it is cheaper compared to a Saturday. So another tip, if you're trying to look at things to save money on, definitely think about the day that you're getting married, because that can also have an impact on the cost. So in terms of the total amount, you can see that we ended up spending around £16,395, and that is around 22,000 US dollars, give or take. Now, being aware that that actually included the honeymoon, so if I do actually take off the honeymoon, you can see that in total for the wedding itself, we only ended up spending around 14,168. £8. So obviously you can see that we've actually gone under budget. Our original budget was actually £15,000 plus £2,000 for the honeymoon. So I'm quite happy that we've been able to go under budget for that. But again, I think the one thing I would say is just try to be creative when it comes to your wedding costs and really try to stick to your budget. Even if you do end up overspending in some areas, I think originally we didn't think we'd spend that much on catering, but because we were able to cut costs in other areas, it meant that it kind of all balanced out. And you guys will know, if you are a subscriber to my channel, that a lot of times I would say that in my own personal budget, if I overspend in some areas, I will try to underspend in other areas so that it all balances out. So again, that was probably one tip I would give. And then the other tip I would say is try and DIY as much as possible if you can. And then also, if you can try and get family members and friends, you can ask them to maybe participate in the wedding, whether that be things like drinks, whether it be monetary gifts, or just things like helping out at the wedding. You could potentially make some massive savings there. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, did you expect me to have this kind of budget? Is there anything you were maybe surprised at? I do post every Tuesday and Friday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on Tuesday.